Hi friends, this is Bethany Jennings, and you're listening to We Should Talk. It's a podcast where we talk about anything and everything to encourage, equip, and empower you to be a decent human. Let's talk. Hello friends, I am recording this literally sitting in a car outside of a church. It's been a crazy week, but I wanted to post this. I know I didn't post last week because we were moving houses, which was a very quick thing that happened. The Lord just kind of worked some things out, and it happened, and we needed more space. Onyx needs his own room, and anyways, that's not the point of this. However, it does lead me to the point of this particular talk. Change is hard. And I told that to David, and I said we were just, laying there after moving houses for, I think, the first or second day. I don't know. It was a crazy week, like I said. And I said, babe, change is hard. And then I started crying. I know you're shocked because, I don't cry so often. And he said, well, it's as hard as you make it. And I agree to some extent. You do have a say in how hard it is, how hard you make it with your reactions and responses and your emotional state and your mental health and all that. And I agree to some extent. However, change in and of itself is just tough. I mean, us physically changing locations of where we're living. We're still in Silsbee, but we're just in a different house. And so it's physically exhausting moving all the stuff. It is mentally exhausting knowing what to move and where to move it and how to set up the new place. And when are we going to, the whole planning portion is mentally exhausting. Then the whole switching everything over with the addresses and we still ain't got all that done, but you know what I mean? It's emotionally exhausting because you start realizing the things that you have held on to, that, could be associated with memories or things like that. And you realize I don't need to carry this specific item, this thing, this physical thing to the new place with me just to have that memory. Like a memory doesn't need a specific item to keep being a memory. But we do become, in some ways, emotionally attached to some things. Or things that may not even be memories specifically. But it could be something that you held on to for, just in case. Well, I don't really need it, but just in case I need it in the future, we'll hold on to it. I found myself being one of those people, and I told Dad, I think on day 2 or 3 of the move, I was talking to Dad one morning, and I said, Dad, it's convicting when I look at the stuff we have held on to that we don't even need. It's convicting. And I think that, maybe that's an American thing across the board, and that we have excess for no reason. But I told him, I said, I was convicting because it was like I was putting my security in things. I was putting my sense of joy in some things. And I had to reevaluate, and I was like, I can have a memory, or I can buy another one of those. We'll be fine. Give that away, or sell that, or let someone else be blessed with it. And it was very convicting. So physically changing locations, that kind of change is physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally exhausting. But not just like a physical change. Any kind of change can be exhausting, whether it's changing occupations or changing, the place where you work or how you earn your money, or changing, churches because of a move, or changing relationships, or changing the way you've always done things because it's just always been that way. Changing phases of life, going from, a kid to a grown up, or a kid to a teenager even, and then to a grown up, and, leaving high school for college, and college for a graduate school, and then going into quote unquote the real world. What is the real world, friends? Do we even know? Because they're always like, well, when you grow up, when life really starts, when does life really start? I mean, doesn't it kind of start when you get here? And then you just spend the rest of the time figuring out what's going on? Isn't that how it works? You don't just magically arrive at knowing everything. Because I always thought, well, when I get to my 20s, I'll have it together. Well, when I get to my 30s, I'll have it together. Well, when I get to there are 20, 30, 40, 80-year-olds who still don't have it all together. They don't have everything figured out. We're not supposed to have everything figured out because we're not supposed to lean on our own understanding. And I think that's the whole point. It's the whole lesson that I've learned in this big season of change for my little family, is that there's always going to be some kind of change. But in a world where something is constantly changing, you learn to lean on the one who has never changed and will never change. And I am learning still yet some more, again, a lifetime member of Christianity, that we have to trust in him who changeth not. He's the same yesterday, today, forever. And that constant, that consistent companionship, that consistent love, that consistent provision. And provision looks like all kinds of things. Not just providing finances, but providing joy and providing security and providing salvation and that constant provision. I think you have to experience change and the discomfort of change to truly appreciate the unchanging God. That's how you learn to appreciate him. And there are some people who, because they don't, not that they don't want to change, it's that they are scared of changing what already is. It's like they're not unsettled enough with where they are to change. Do you know what I mean? Because I've met plenty of people who, quote unquote, want to change. David and I meet people and we work with people, we mentor people, and they say, I want to change. I want to be better. I hear you saying you want to change, but are you willing to go through the discomfort of change? Because I have never been through one change in my life that was all daisies. Never, not once. It ended up being real pretty, but there were some thorns in that rose bush. Like, it was uncomfortable at times. It ended up great, but change is not always comfortable. And I think that's why people are willing to keep things the way they are, even when they're dysfunctional, even when, it's not the right fit, or it's not, if it's a toxic, they'll stay in that toxic relationship because they're too scared of what change looks like in the process. So, what did I learn this week in the middle of moving houses? I learned that there are some friends who will do anything for you, like move heavy furniture and go through all the things in your house with you. 1. 2, I learned that I've got to quit placing my security and my joy in things. 3, I learned that change, even when it's uncomfortable, can be a good thing. 4, I learned that to really appreciate an unchanging God, you have to experience the discomforts of change. And 5, I am reminded of what a missionary once said. They said, I never really had a home because of the kind of ministry that their family operated. And they said they never really had a home. But they said this, and it has stuck with me. And I'm sure I'll be living it for a while. But I feel like I'm living it a little bit now, in that you may not always feel like you're home, especially when stuff is changing, but the will of God becomes your home. That's where you find peace, is in the will. Living in the will becomes your home, and that's all the security you need. I'm still learning how to get there. The Lord's still working on me. But we're on this side of this part of the change, and I'm sure there will be more adjustments to come. But I'm happy about the change. And that was a lot to learn from one house move. That was like 5 whole things. All right, guys. We will talk next week. I think we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. I bet some of you have already broke your New Year's resolutions. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. I'll see you then. Well, that was fun. I'm glad you stuck around for the whole thing. And thank you for talking to me today. Y'all go like and follow and review and do all the podcast things that people do. And don't forget to be a good human.